Salve omnes and welcome to this week's video tutorial on Laocoon speaks out against the Trojan horse. The grammar concept in this reading are participles, and as noted, participles are much more common in Latin as compared to English, so we'll want to give this text our careful attention. We start off here with oppressi bello longo et a deis aversi duces Graecorum, iam post decem annos magnum equam lignium arte Minervae faciunt. Here we have a wonderful reference to the Trojan War and the Trojan horse. After years of long and hard fighting, it is the ingenuity and brilliance of the Greeks that wins the day, as always aided by the gods, in this case, the god of war herself, Minerva. So we start off with a participle here, oppressi, where we get the verb oppressive, but then we have war, and then the adjective long, and then by the gods, and avoided, as we'll see. So this first clause is a little bit tricky because it's a participle construction. What we need to do is recognize that the participles are of the, in this case, the second declension. So according to the rule, we're going to need to translate this in the past tense. And as always, I'll tend to keep my translation somewhat literal. So having been oppressed by a long war, or simply oppressed by a long war. So let's go ahead and write that out there. Oppressed by a long war. Here we have, these are both in the ablative, by a. So let me pull up our declension chart, which I believe I have somewhere here. Let's see, this is not readily, oh, here we go. So here is oppresso, longo, both in the second declension ablative singular. Oppressi is a reference to the nominative. In this case, it's a reference to the Greeks, so we need the participle in the nominative to agree with the noun. And simply a conjunction. Aversi, literally, this is one where you might want to get out your dictionary or your Whitaker's Words just to give you a little more confidence in the vocabulary. So I'm doing that here. You can see it's a participle. Let's see, probably the best translation here would be, we're going to have to go with one of these. Probably just keep it averse. The idea here is that the gods seemingly have been not taking sides in the war, hence why the war sort of dragged on, because neither the Greeks nor the Trojans seem to have the favor of the gods. So I'm going to go ahead and keep this literally. Seems to work there. And by averse gods, so that could also be an adjective. So let's go with that as well. Oppressed by a long war and averse gods. The Greek leaders. So after that tricky participle construction, we have a little bit more straightforward text, simply literally the leaders of the Greeks. So that is third declension nominative plural, and then aurum would of course be second declension genitive plural. So put it all together. There's our is, and there's our aurum. Duces Graecorum. Iam post decem, now after 10 years. So as I mentioned before, you really want to use the punctuation to help you chunk or break up the sentences for readability. So I'm going to write now, which is yam, and then after post. Now after 10 years, they make, so there's our verb, our main verb actually in the sentence, they make a large wooden horse by the art of Minerva. So Minerva, as you know, is also the goddess of craftsmanship, in addition to wisdom and war. She's often seen with the aegis, which originally was a loincloth into which Zeus was born with, but it is Minerva who's often wielding that deadly weapon. So they make a large wooden horse by the art of Minerva. So we want to use the Roman names. Of course, it would be Athena in Greek. They make a large wooden horse by the art of Minerva. So once again, that first clause, as your book points out, it takes quite a while actually to get used to these participle, but the idea is clear. Oppressed by a long war and by averse gods, the leaders of the Greeks, now after 10 years, make a large wooden horse by the art of Minerva. Complaint means fill, so they fill, this is where we get the word uterus, but in this case the belly, and then with many soldiers. So there is our in this case, I guess we'll call it the ablative of accompaniment. It can also be dative, just depending on how you look at it. But the context tells us that they are filling the belly with many soldiers. Of course, they're going to go there secretly in hiding and wait in ambush for the Trojans to wrongly think that they have won the war and the Greeks have left. They fill the belly, of course the belly of the horse, with many soldiers. Once again, this is where Whitaker's words can just give us some confidence that this is probably, so they fill up, probably you could say furnish, but it might be a little bit more literary, but I think I'm just going to go fill to keep it somewhat basic. They fill the belly with many soldiers. They leave the horse on the shore. Literally relinquish. They leave They leave the horse, so we should be able to recognize equum as second declension accusative singular. Equus, equum, so that's our direct object. They leave the horse on the shore and sail to or beyond a nearby island. So ultra in this case means beyond, and then literally an approximate island, probably nearby, and sail beyond ultra, a nearby island. Okay, so that one should be fairly straightforward. Nearby island, there's our adjective. As you know, Latin likes to put the adjective after the noun. Our noun is island, so if we look at our declension chart, we should be confident in this. That is accusative first declension, so insulam proximam in this case. And then it goes Trojani nullis copius at navis vident omnis Troiae gaudet paduntur portae. De equo autem Trojani sunt incerti, aliam eam urbam duci cupiunt, alie eam Graeces insidies appellant. Primus ibi ante omnes de arce currens Laocoon sarcados Trojanos, haec verba dicit, al misere civis non estis sani, quid cogitatis non intelligetis Graecos et Scytis insidiis eorum, aut invenientis in isto equo multos militis acres aut equos et machina belli facta contra nos venturi in urbum visura casses nostros et populum, aut aliquid latet equo ne crediti Trojani, quidquid est timio Danios et dona ferentis, dixit et potentem hastam magnis viribus manus sinistrae in utrum equia iecit, statit illa tremens. So a very famous passage in Vergil's the Aeneid. So going back to where we left off here is we should be able to recognize this as the subject with the main verb. So the Trojans see no troops or ships. So let me write that down and I'll explain that in further detail. So again, except for that first opening clause, fairly straightforward, assuming we know our endings. The Trojans, Trojani, so that is second declension nominative plural. There's our main verb. Nullis copies is first declension accusative plural, ace. So if you look on your declension chart, again, I'm not going to do this for all of this, but you should have your declension chart out when you're doing Latin. So there's our nullis copies. And as mentioned, navis is third declension, accusative plural. So if we look here for reference, there it is, naves, accusative plural of the third declension. All the Trojans rejoice. The gates are literally being opened. They open the gates thinking that they are safe. So all Trojans, or all, I guess in this case, all Troy rejoices. So let's go, all Troy rejoices, or all of Troy. All Troy rejoices, and then like Pandora's box, or expand, if you put an EX in there, the gates are opened, literally are being opened, since that is passive. But we'll keep it in the active in English grammar, if possible. The gates are opened, but about the horse, so de equo means about the horse, concerning the horse, the Trojans are uncertain. So autem means but or however. So we can keep that in that word order if we like. So they see the Trojan horse in front of them and they're wondering, what is this? Beware of Greeks bearing gifts. So about the horse, de is always followed by the ablative. So we mentioned earlier, equus is second declension. So second declension, ablative singular is o. Here's our subject, and then our uncertain, our adjective agreeing with Trojani. They both end in I of the second declension, nominative plural. Alii means some or others. So that's a good pairing to keep in mind. So some want to take it into the city or to lead it into the city. So some of the Trojans want to lead it into the city. So it referring back to the horse. So we need to recognize that eum is referring back to equum based on the context, and then into the city. We said before, if it's into, we use the accusative. So this is third declension accusative singular, em. If you look on your declension chart, there's em. So that is for where or where to, or excuse me, where to. If it's where, it'll be in the ablative for the case ending. So some want to lead it into the city. Others call it a Greek trap. So like an appellate court. So others call it literally Greek treacheries, but I'm going to go with call it a Greek trap. Primus, literally the first there before all, running from the citadel, is Laocoon, a Trojan priest, and says these words. So this one is a little bit trickier. Can you see the participle in this sentence? It's kurens, so running. So primos, like primary school, so it's referring to Laocoon, who is the Trojan priest, who's going to warn the Trojans about the Greeks bearing gifts. And this one, sacerdos, actually is in the singular, so it's a Trojan priest. So let's put some of this together. So the first there before all of them. So I'm going to keep it somewhat literal. So the first there before all of them. So the idea is the standing there. First there before. The first there before all of them. Here's our participle construction. Running from the citadel. So de arche means from the citadel. That's another one if you're not quite sure. You need to look these words up here. So arche is third declension ablative singular because it ends in E, so from the citadel. The first there before them all, running from the citadel, is Laocoon, a Trojan priest. So we might want to add id here, is here rather, is. Is Laocoon a Trojan priest? And then probably say who says these words. So words actually is a neuter noun. So this is second declension, accusative, neuter plural. So there's our neuter nouns of the second declension. So verba, because verbum is a neuter noun. Again, if we're not sure, we might want to use Blaker's words to look that up. But I'm going to add an et in this just to syntactically smooth it out a bit. Or who rather, who says these words. And these are his famous words, echoing Homer from the Iliad. O wretched citizens. O wretched citizens, you are not sane. Great line. So non estis, estis means you all, and then sane. You are not sane. What are you thinking? You are not sane. Let me change the edit, rather the end punctuation here. What are you thinking? Surely, none means surely. Surely you understand the Greeks and their and know their treachery. So surely you understand the Greeks, and skitis, you know, eor means there, Their, so it's a possessive adjective. And then we had this earlier, their treachery. So surely you know what they're up to. So surely you've been fighting with them for 10 years. Surely you know the Greeks. And or was it surely you understand? Let me change that. Surely you understand and know, that's where we get the word science, know their treachery or tricks. If you want to go to tricks, that's fine too. Or you will find in that horse, or I guess, no, actually in the case, yeah. So out means either or. So we got to, it can mean or, but looking at the context here, just to pull this up for a second, if I do out, you can see out does mean it, but if I have out, as it points out here, that's either or. So either you will find in that horse many soldiers, or, so out, or the horse is a machine of war. Here's a participle, facta, made against us, literally having been made against us, in other words, to hurt us in some manner, if not worse. Or the horse is a machine of war made against us. Here's a future participle, about to come into the city. So we said that these participles, as your book points out, these are tricky. Best thing to do is just keep practicing your Latin, but you can see this actually is a future participle, so we need to say about to come into the city. This is the way we'd read that. About to see our homes and people. So you're going to bring in this horse, and it'll be right in our midst, and then we might not be able to stop it. So visura, like visual, about to see our homes. Notice that's the direct object. First declension, accusative plural is ace, and then populum would be second declension, populus, accusative singular. So there's our two direct objects there. Or something is hidden inside of it, like latent, or it is hiding something. Could even say that too. Or, so here we just have or with the out. It is hiding something. Something hidden inside of it, that is. And then here's that famous line, do not believe the Trojans, or excuse me, do not believe Trojans. Do not trust the horse, rather. So there's our dative indirect object. So do not trust the horse Trojans. And then just a couple more lines here. Do not trust whatever it is, quid id est, whatever it is. Whatever it is, I fear the Greeks and those bearing gifts. So here's another participle, like where we get the word donation. I fear the Greeks. This is Laocoon speaking. I fear, another word for the Greeks was the daneos. I fear the Greeks and those bearing gifts. Literally, I fear the Greeks and gifts bearing. But this is where Latin can use participles, whereas English prefers a separate subject and a verb, as your book points out in the main grammar section. I fear the Greeks and those bearing gifts. Whatever it is, and those bearing gifts. So we'll end that right there. He said this, so dixit, there's our perfect. So he, or he didn't say he spoke. Oops. He spoke, and here's our verb, yekit, which is yakio, yakare, yeki, yaktum. Again, if we're not sure, we're going to look this up. This is to show you the present tense, and you'll see that Iaccio. Remember there was no J in classical Latin, so just put Iacuit here. So this is past tense of throw. Let's see, I'll put this up there that you can see there, right? So perfect is past tense in Latin. So he threw a literally a powerful spear, I guess, right? So he threw hastam means spear. So he threw a powerful, he spoke and threw a potentam hastam, powerful spear. And then literally with I guess with great strength, with his left hand into the belly of the horse. So it's kind of the image, with great strength, magnis viribus, with his left hand into the belly of the horse. So he spoke and threw a powerful spear with maybe go this. Into the belly of the horse. There it stood. So illa statit, or just literally, yeah, there it stood, trembling, so shaking back and forth because of the length of the spear. So there it stood, trembling. Okay, so there's some commentary on this. This is a very famous passage. Later in the story, Laocoon and his two sons are going to be attacked by sea serpents. That is the subject of a lot of famous artwork. You may be familiar with it. Just kind of pulled it up real quick to put this famous passage. Pretty much any video, but it's been the subject. If you go to Rome, you'll see this, but there it is, very famous. Laocoon and his sons, very famous, representing Laocoon's later punishment in his involvement in the Trojan War. All right, so this one, it's a beautiful story, but there are some participles here that are a little bit tricky, but hopefully this video will help. I recommend, once again, if you haven't done the self-tutorial exercises, please do those. And as always, email me if you have any questions. And keep working on your assignment for the semester, which will count for 10% of your grade. And I'm thinking that the next test is probably going to be in early November after one more chapter. So, but you'll have plenty of heads up on that and a chance to review accordingly. Valete.